We're going to talk about incident report management, what that means for you guys, especially, it doesn't matter house of worship, private school. I mean, you can be a business. I'm going to cover a couple things with this because we're introducing a platform. And all right, I'm going to give you guys a case study that you guys have heard me talk about numerous times, but it covers a lot of really good stuff. So it'll set the stage for what we're going to talk about. I use this in several environments because it's such a good case study. I'm going to talk about considerations for what this looks like. We're going to talk about the elements of a formal report and what that means. And put some of you guys on mute here. There we go. All right. I'm going to get into the 7 essentials, especially if you guys are still, if you're doing report writing and you're doing it manually, which a lot of churches still are. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I can tell you we've got a better way to do it. But if you're not going to switch or you can't, you don't have the resources to do that, then what we'll do is, we're going to show you some ways to actually write an effective manual report. Okay. All right, Scott, put them on mute if you would for me when they come on. We'll get into field reporting, what that means, how you do a field report, and then I'm going to get into the threat assessment piece and how you take this information to kind of build your threat spectrums. And then Scott's going to take over and show you an incident management platform. Okay. So what I want you to think about here as we get through this is, especially with Scott's part of it, think about it as a mini GSOC. A GSOC, a Global Security Operations Center, is something like a lot of corporations have. We've got one. And so we have security personnel that are 24/7 monitoring every camera and every location where we have a security presence. And anytime something happens, they put a report out. And that report goes into a system and it gets sent out to all the stakeholders. That information is held there. You build your threat assessments off of it. There's a lot of things that you can do with that. So I want you to think of what Scott talks about later on as a mini GSOC for your church. All right, video you're about to see, most of you guys have seen this. Hold on one second. You can talk to Scott about that, bud. Okay, so Scott's on here, Scott Mousby, and you can ask him about it. All right, so what you're about to see is you're going to see an active shooter come into a ministry in D.C. It's Family Research Council. This guy, I'll walk through the timeline in a second. I want you to see the video if you haven't seen it. He's been planning this attack right about less than a week. This is a really short attack cycle. This security guard, second security guard to have contact with this guy, no incident report management, nothing, no discussion about this guy coming in ever because he came in the day before for hostile surveillance. Guard gets suspicious, goes around, and guy pulls a pistol, starts to shoot people because there are people there in FRC and Family Research Council, and the guard is shot 2 or 3 times. You can see the people duck behind the desk. The guard is able to actually subdue him after being shot. The guard is shot. Police come in, arrest the guy. He's convicted like 2 or 3 counts of terrorism. It's in D.C. This is a faith-based organization. This is based on, motivation was based on an attack because of Family Research Council's stance against gay marriage. This is back in 2012. Okay, so obviously this is an undesirable event. We don't want to happen in our ministry. This is not a church, but it's still a ministry. It's an international ministry. Okay, so let me kind of give you the timeline, and that'll set the stage for the report writing stuff. So you guys get a picture how important this is. So you're going to see it's a very, very short attack cycle. So on the 7th of August in 2012, knucklehead here, Corkins, who's still in prison, goes out and gets online. He decides he wants to attack a ministry because of the gay marriage issue. So in 2012, the Obama administration decided to send that to where it did not belong. There were a lot of faith-based organizations, very specifically FRC, that it was their job. They lobbied against this, and Corkins here didn't like that. So he decides he wants to commit some violence. So before he picks a target, he decides that first he thinks he's going to do this as an explosive attack, figures out that's not the best thing to do because he has no experience with handguns fighting. He's pretty much a little weak soul, except in his mind he thinks he can do this and was almost actually successful at doing it. He goes to purchase a handgun, and he's got to learn about the handgun because he didn't know anything about it. So he gets online, finds this arsenal, this gun store next to him in Chantilly, Virginia. He lives outside D.C. On the 9th, he actually goes down and takes a look at the pistol. starts shopping around, likes the SIG P229 because he saw it online, goes back the next day, purchases a pistol. Hold on 1 second. Let me, there we go. All right. Purchases the pistol. And let me go back here. Sorry. Right. Purchases it and gets 2 free hours of firearms training. Okay. So after doing that, and, I guess just being really happy that he can fire the pistol, on the 12th of August, he goes to the Southern Poverty Law Center's website and he identifies 4 targets, including FRC. FRC is the main target, primary target, and then has 3 secondary targets. Okay. On the 13th of August, he actually goes to FRC and does a little bit of hostile surveillance. So he goes through the entire attack cycle here. All right. FRC is secure. It is a secure space. Okay. There's a camera, there's a locked door. And what he does is he exploits a vulnerability. Okay. So it's exploitable vulnerability, rings the buzzer and says, hey, my name is, and uses a false name. It says, I'm here to see employee so-and-so, and uses another false name. The guard lets him in. They violate their own security policies, let the guy in. He comes in, stays in there for a few minutes, talks to the guard. The guard validates that the employee does not exist, doesn't know why this guy's here. Corkins is able to look in the space, get a mental image of how he needs to get back in and how many people he wants to kill, and then he leaves. The guard on the 13th never documents any of this. Now, I know all of this because I know the security director for the Family Research Council. Met him about 3 years ago at a Southern Baptist event. I was helping provide security there. He was there with Tony Evans. And so we had a discussion about the case, and I asked him all about it. He told me. And so on the 14th, he comes in, goes out to Chick-fil-A and purchases 15 sandwiches. Chicken sandwiches. So the idea is once he gets back into FRC and kills all those people, because he counted 15, he's going to smear those sandwiches in their faces. On the 14th, he also purchases a black backpack from Kmart, which he's going to conceal the sandwiches, the pistol, and the extra ammunition in as he gets back into FRC. And as you saw on the 15th, he returns to FRC again, gets in. This time when he buzzes the buzzer, this is another guard, second guard, says, hey, I'm here for a job interview for an internship. And Leo Jenkins lets him in. Luckily, Jenkins gets suspicious and he is able to stop the attack. So none of the hostile surveillance is not documented. There's nothing in a logbook anywhere that this guy had showed up the day before or 2 days before. There's none of this documented whatsoever. It's never mentioned a pass down. Luckily, Jenkins felt like something was wrong. He went from condition yellow right up to orange and then directly into red once he saw the gun coming. Okay. Nothing's documented. No hard copy reports, no manual reports, no reporting system, no intelligence system to report this to other ministries, nothing at all. Through the grace of God, Jenkins is able to stop him as the attack starts. So here's some considerations, whether you're doing manual reports or whether, you kind of jump in into the 21st century and go into an incident management system. Okay. Here's what, I don't care again if it's manual or electronic. It helps prevent and mitigate undesirable events. If you've got some sort of incident management system, I don't care if it's manual or electronic, it is going to help prevent and mitigate any kind of undesirable events. It also maintains a permanent record of any event that you have. And it doesn't have to be security events. Most of what we record are medical events. A church's biggest fellowship and as big as some of the ministries that we work with, they've got all kinds of stuff going on. And so because of that, medical events, weather-related events where there's damage or there's a threat, and then, of course, the security-related or the intentional incidents, those are also recorded. So it maintains a permanent record of events, whether you're storing it manually or electronically. It ensures policies and procedures are followed. Imagine if the guard on the 13th would have documented, hey, I messed up. This guy came in. Some things he said were not true. Here's what he looked like. Here's the camera footage. Let's be on the lookout for this guy. Jenkins never would have let Corkins in. They would have called the police. They would have called 911 right away. That ministry may have never been attacked and had to go through this process. Okay. Awareness of security-related events and problems. Again, it kind of goes into policy and procedure compliance here. It makes everybody aware of what's happening. including the stakeholders that are paying for the program, okay, the leadership. Reduces liability. It also, at the end of the year, can show the church's return on investment, okay? So because of all these incidents and what you're doing, so not only does a report, and we're going to go over that, talk about the incident, tell us about what you did also, it stores all this information, and it can be your return on investment. You can show the church the worth of the security ministry. Not that they don't already know, but if you think things aren't about to get rough, budgets aren't about to start getting cut all over the country, and the questions of, do we really need to spend, even if it's $1,000 a year on security, is this really necessary? Folks, it's coming, okay? We're in a recession, okay? We're in the let's pretend administration. Let's pretend like everything's okay, all right? Here's the deal, it's not. So things are about to start getting rough all over. So we're gonna have to start to document and have to show and validate that ROI. And of course, it gives you data for your threat spectrum, okay? So if you're doing it manually or you're doing it electronically, all right, so the manual stuff, not a problem with it, especially if you've got some sort of a shareable and writable form. But a lot of the electronic process, what Scott's going to show you at the end of this, it shows you how to do all this. Like, you don't have to keep up with it. You don't have to listen to my presentations to do a formal report and write a good one. So here's the deal with a really formal report. It contains fact rather than opinions. Okay, so I'm not putting my opinion in there. I'm just stating what happened. Okay, it is accurate. So we don't make any assumptions, and we don't embellish anything on a formal report. Because if something goes to litigation, and this is discoverable, and it's found out to be inaccurate, it's not going to be good for the house of worship. Okay, and then of course it's complete. And I'm going to show you all the elements to make sure this is what's in your formal report. Now, again, if you're doing it manually, you'll need a guideline like this. Most of the electronic processes, like Scott will show you after this, it does it for you. You don't have to worry about it, okay? So the first essential element is, to a complete report, is we want to talk about who was involved, okay? Everybody. All individuals involved, spell all names correctly, identify the role of each person, witness, victim, adversary. Think about that first guard on August 13th in 2013 or 2012. Would, in that report that he put out to the other shifts, you know what? A male other individual walked in at 15:30 today. We violated policy. He said he was here to see another employee. I let him in the door. Tried to validate that employee that he mentioned, their employment here. It was false. The individual acted really strange. Betty from engineering was down at the desk with me. She witnessed this. I have this on camera footage. This is who the person is, and this is who we think the person may be based on what they told us. Okay. Think about if that would have been put in, even in a manual report, and that could have been shared with Jenkins, who actually had to neutralize this threat on the 15th. Think about if the who would have been answered prior to. So we want to answer who is involved in our reports. Number two, we want to be able to document what happened. And what that means is what led up to the action. Think about it again on the 13th. If that guard would have said, hey, I violated our policy and I opened the door, they would have figured out they had an exploitable vulnerability and they needed to fix it. They needed to proceduralize it. They need to go through some sort of continuous improvement process to make sure that didn't happen again. What are the elements of the incident? Hey, when I let him through the door, this guy came in, he started asking questions. Okay, what transpired? Well, as we started talking, I validated the employee did not work here. We got suspicious. I'm just letting you know. Think about if those things would have been passed on prior to the 15th. Okay. The next thing, and this is easy, when did it happen? So this is really important. Not just the facts of the case, but times, dates, the time of the day, like evening, morning, whatever. Because again, if any of this gets discoverable because some of this goes under litigation, there's a criminal investigation, this could clear people in the church of wrongdoing, or it could help somebody else. And so because of that, we want to make sure that we indicate the time of occurrence. If we don't exactly know the time, then we want to know or indicate or document some sort of a probable time frame. Like, I believe it was like Wednesday evening, on August 11th between 1800 and 1830. Okay, so at least have some sort of a probable time frame documented on the report. Okay, and of course, where Where did it happen? Be specific. Not only, hey, it happened at 1210 Franklin Road at the Brentwood campus. No, we want to know what happened at 1210 Franklin Road at the Brentwood campus in the Learning Center on the first floor next to the giraffe room, right? We want to know, we want to indicate exactly where this happened, even if we have camera coverage. It's even more important if we've got camera coverage, so the report backs up what everybody's seeing, right? So it's just a secondary form of validation. And of course, indicate all persons involved in the locations, right? Okay, think about again if the guard was able to do this. How did it happen? State the facts as observed or described. What did you see or what did somebody tell you? How did this incident take place? Well, the guard on the 13th opened the door without validating who this person was. Opened the door, violated our access control policy, and that's what happened. And then, of course, I want to describe these events in chronological order as they occurred in the report. And then, of course, why? This is a tough one. But this is something where, think about the FRC attack. The guard could have said, based on the information we received, this looked a lot like on-site hostile surveillance. We've called DC police. We have his photo from camera coverage, and we need to make sure that everybody knows about this. This look a lot like an attack cycle. It would be okay to put that in the report, okay? And then, of course, actions taken at this time, of course, the guard would have said, well, the guy walked out the door after I validated the employee didn't work there and I didn't do anything, but at least we knew if any action was taken. And of course, if he actually would have documented all this, he could have said, I filled out an SAR, a suspicious activity report, which we're going to cover in detail next week on Thursday. We're going to talk about what other people did and what was instructed, what the security personnel instructed others to do, okay? So one way to make sure that we cover those 7 elements, especially if you're on a post, it's a good idea to use a field notebook. And the field notebook's really easy. There are some field notebooks that you can buy on Amazon. They're like, I don't know, they're out of probably 10 cents per card. They come with a little plastic thing that you stick in your cargo pocket. Police officers use them. And if you want to know about it, shoot Scott an email at scott@michaelmannsecurityservices.com. I've got them. I'll get a photo of them, or we'll get a screenshot of Amazon and we'll send it to you so you can use them. I've used them in the past, very specifically in executive protection, but they're kind of a cross between a field note and a field interview. And so, or you can just get these field notes like at, in Walmart or whatever, or Walgreens, they sell these little notebooks for a couple bucks. So the notebooks are used in the field or while you're on post, and you can take notes about the incident while you're on post. And then if you've got somebody that's documenting all this, like in some sort of a camera room, which, some of you guys have, or you're going to go back and document this in an electronic form or even some sort of a fillable form, a PDF, then you can make the notes in the field, and that way you don't lose any information or knowledge, okay? Now, all of this information will fit into our threat assessment. The threat assessment is something you should do every year, and that's an analysis. Hold on, I got a question. Scott's already got it for you. It's so if you want the link to those field notebooks, Scott's already put it in there. He's awesome. All right. So the threat assessment's an analysis of any indication, circumstance, or event that could compromise your asset or assets you're trying to protect. Okay. Incident report management systems, they identify, gather, and store all this information for you anyway. I just need to pull it up. I can electronically go into the system every year and pull up, intentional incidents, because it's going to do all that for you. But if you're doing it manually and you're putting them in like folders, then what you want to do is you want to pull that at the end of the year to do your threat assessment. This is what's helping you guys build your ROI, okay, at the end of the year. All right, so that is the basics of report writing, okay, the basic module on manual. I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
This is the system that we use, and that we have gone to other, or we have gone out and helped get really good pricing from this particular vendor, like beyond what anybody could get on your own, type of thing. So just keep that in mind. So if you're at all interested in building this system out, I would highly recommend this particular one. Mike and I have spent a lot of time researching and checking them all out. And then number 2, the main thing is as you dive into this, and of course you're not going to see it now, but eventually there's going to be multiple churches, multiple businesses, multiple private schools, multiple whatever, and we'll be able to share information. So that is really the key to all of this. And I wanted you guys to have a chance to see what that looks like. This is just kind of a little demo, if you will, but there's not a lot of meat and potatoes because number one, I don't want you all to we have to be careful who sees the information. So this is kind of a demo account, and for you guys to be able to see it in action, and you can see where you can create different checkpoints, and you can give them different names and different activities, and of course there's a QR code or a tag number and all these different things, right? And then you can come in and create tours, and you have different incidents, and this is where you would go in, like he had talked about, with having those incidents, and you could look at them. You can even export them right here. I'm not going to do that because there's nothing there to export, but you could export all your incidents, all your the reports that you've had in there. Have a list. You have a list of all your officers, tracking how many. You could use this for tracking hours and things like that. So as you get into the reports, you're tracking your timekeeping. You're tracking site inspections. You're tracking different, like vehicles. If you have maybe your church has a bus or a van, or maybe the pastor's vehicle or whatever. You can get creative with that. Here's your incident reports, and again, this is all right now very basic, and there's not much for y'all to see as far as examples, but it's enough that you can see that you're going to be able to come in and drag and drop and okay, who's the person putting in the info and things, and you got for company vehicles, it's gonna prompt you for some information and things like that. You can come in and create your own forms. So you've got, these are sort of defaults or basics, whatever you want to call it. This is probably the most common. Here's, like, as an example, a tour exception. You're doing a tour and you notice something that's out of sorts, and you want to report that. These are just different examples of that. And of course, here's your database search. So you can go back through and you can search for the different reports that are out there. This is where that sharing of information comes in handy. But if this group of default reports isn't, maybe it's missing something, maybe you want to have a domestic dispute form, maybe you, like, along that same lines, maybe you want to track and record court documents for custody things that might come up in your children's ministry. You may create that report. We can help you do that as well, and go in there from there. So the button's hiding it. You see if I can pull it down just a little bit. It's guard metrics. So guardmetrics.com. If you go to guardmetrics.net, that's where you have to have the login. But yeah, good point and good question there, Steve. Guard Metrics is, there you go. Thanks, Don. Guard Metrics is the name of the software and the company. And then, I log in through guardmetrics.net. That's where you would go in and log into the account and have access to things. And so you can create your own reports. You can get, really creative and within this user, right? So like if you were to have this system, you can have as many users as you want, and you could set it up. Like you could build out the children's ministry could have one section and one type of reporting, and then like the worship team could have one, and so on. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do. It looks like somebody's trying to come in and join us here, so I'll see if I can let them in. So you can do a lot of fancy things, and you can separate it out. The bigger your church may be, you may want to have it sectioned off so that you're able to track things that only that particular team can see, because either A, it's sensitive information, or B, it just is irrelevant to other teams and it's just not worth doing it, right? But you can just track, like just the timekeeping record alone, you can track the people that serve, and at the end of the day, or not the end of the day, at the end of the year, you might want to go back to your church and say, "Hey, Pastor, we had 319 volunteer hours on the security team. We saved, and if you were going to go hire a police officer or a security company to come in here and do that at $48 an hour or whatever the rate is in your town for an armed security guard with the proper insurance and all that stuff, here's how much we saved you." And that is a great way. That's actually how, when at Fairview Church, where I attended until a couple of years ago, that's what we did. We came in as an all volunteer team. We paid for all of our stuff up front. We didn't ask the church for anything. We took care of all of our own expenses. And then we worked for a couple of years as volunteers, and then went back and said, "Look how much money we've sort of saved the church. And we're wondering if we could maybe have a couple $1,000s a year for our budget." And that really set the tone for it, making it very easy for us to justify having a budget and things like that. So it's something you may want to consider. It doesn't work for everybody, and I get it. So there's churches that are smaller and don't have budgets, and finances can be a burden. Sometimes if you're going to give money to a different area of the church, it's going to have to come out of the pastor's pocket or whatever, right? You have to turn the lights off. I get it. There's all those scenarios, but this system is a one-stop shop for all of those things. And then, of course, you get into like a person or a vehicle, and when you're searching the database, so I can see the reports from the church down the street for the reports that particular church wants to give access to. And again, I've talked to some of you all individually about this. You can protect things like Susie and Mike got into a fight in the children's ministry over the custody of their children. If you don't want that type of a report to make it out, there's a way that you can hide that, and that way no other church sees that. But if you're looking at a license plate or a description of a person or a description of a vehicle, that may come in handy down the road, right? Here's some of the settings, and then I'll let you guys go because I know I'm probably tired of hearing me talk about it. But here's a lot of the different things. You've got your vandalism, you've got trespassing, you've got suspicious circumstance, property damage, blah, 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 right? A lot of different things. Activity checks that are types. Those are, think of that as like what you would give your guards, your officers, your volunteers, whatever you're calling them. You're going to give them those types of titles. Your person or your vehicle types. Here's your company vehicle. Sorry, they're all lumped in the same one here. You got different. Now you can go in and add regions. So think of regions as campuses, right? And you could. Sorry, my phone rang. You could have different campuses be different regions or branches if you wanted to do it that way. And there, again, you can even treat branches as the different ministries. You could call a branch children's, and then that separates it out, right? That type of thing. An email group, again, would be like, when a report, like say you have a suspicious activity report and you want it to go out to certain people, and so that they would get an email and they would read that as a PDF and things, right? So a lot of these are not pre-populated because this is a demo account, but there's a lot of customization. There's a lot of report building. There's a lot of robust features within this system that professional security companies are already using across the country. This is a well-known product. This is a well-known company. We have a great relationship with them. We worked with them to get this pricing and this model and so on. The main thing I think that I'll end with is, I've mentioned it a couple of times already. You could go to them specifically or even seek out other companies. And you may or may not, the pricing wise, we've really got it to the point where, it's $100 a month. Like, Michael always says, you're probably spending more than that and on cream and sugar, in some cases. But at the end of the day, it's as dirt cheap as we can get it. And the key thing is we're going to be building this this like national network, right? So that we can start to see things that we normally wouldn't see through just our local communities. And this would be an alternative to that group that you tried to create that might have 10 or 12 of you are meeting once a month and sharing information, or there's an email chain and things like that. This is something that will last for years and years and years. This is something that will show a lot of different trends or maybe threats. It's something that could help if you ever get to the point where you're wanting to apply for a grant or whatever, as asking for data. This can help in insurance scenarios where they're looking for how are you tracking things that are happening, what type of reporting are you using, or if you wanted to, or if you ever had to get into some type of litigation, you could pull up reports and say, we reported about this 4 times, and then it finally escalated to this point. So I'm going to stop because I'm a lot more wordy than Michael. So anybody, it's already 6:34. We were only trying to keep this to a half an hour. So anybody have any questions, anything I can answer? This is a demo account, so I don't have as many things I can show you, but if you wanted, I guess the best way to put it is, number one, do you have any questions? And then number two, if this is something that you want to get interested in, or that you're interested in, let me know like that you want to move forward with this, and I'll send you a link, and you can sign up basically or get started. And Steve, how would we order through? So great question. So if you wanted to discuss this with your pastor, number one, we could do a one-on-one demo with your pastor, like if that helps. Like Michael and I both do that a lot. We don't necessarily advertise it out there to everybody, but probably once a week I'm on the phone and Michael's on the phone with a pastor and a person that's trying to start a team, helping them talk through some of the things that they're worried about, right? Because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. In this case, it's the same thing. If you all wanted to do a demo of just, me and you and your pastor, I'm happy to do it. If you're, if you're trying to go to your pastor and you're thinking like, hey, I'm ready to sign up, I can email you a link that you would click on, that you would enter in your payment information. Like, I'm not going to take your credit card number over the phone or any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's a secure, payment processing thing. It's a recurring, payment thing. So like, it's $100 a month. There's a one-time fee of $100, and that's to get you set up. So what that looks like is you would go in there, like, let's just say tonight you're ready to do this. You click on the link, you type in all your stuff, and it's going to set up a $100 charge for today, and then a $100 charge for each future month on today's date, which is the 11th, right? So that'll be this isn't like, we're not going to prorate and retro and all that kind of stuff. It's just each month it would start on that day, on the 11th, would charge you again, right? And then we have to get like a list from you guys of usernames and passwords, and we can do temporary passwords in the beginning so that nobody thinks we're trying to like steal, and you can always change it once you get in. Like, we can create like a dummy password for everybody, and then after they log in the first time, they change it, right? And each person, so if you have 100 people, it's still $100 a month. It's not 100 times 100, it's 100, right? So if you have 50 people on your team, it's not $5,000 a month. You can have as many people as you want. This is another thing we negotiated in to make it better for all of the churches, right? So now you're building out your account, and I'll help you do that. That's part of the onboarding process. We work with Guardmetrics, but I know how to do it. So you'll fill out a spreadsheet, and you'll give me the different usernames, passwords, who has access to what level, and all that kind of stuff. And if you have different campuses, we'll build that out. Or if you want different branches or different, if you want to have a children's ministry have its own thing and whatever else, we'll build that out together. And that's the beginning stages. But as far as going to your pastor, I could even send a video. Like, it's not really a one-on-one demo, but it would just be a Here's an example of it. A pastor may not want to talk to me or sit down one-on-one and do this, but they may want to watch some information. I can send that out to you as well. We're trying our best not to just blast this out like in the beginning stages. This is more of like people that we've already worked with and people that we've been getting asked about this for 3, 4, 5 years now. And we finally said, let's do something about it. And we've been working on this for a long time. So, this is something that's really important to Michael and I both, and for what we see as the future, right, of the ministry. So we'll sit down with anybody and chat with them, or do a demo for your whole team, whatever it might be, to get the word out and kind of go from there. So I hope this was informative. We're going to do a couple of these the next couple of Thursdays. We're going to be doing this. Like next week is going to be suspicious activity reports. And I think you know how Michael works. Like we obviously have to run a business, and we jokingly say, this costs less than your cream and sugar. But he always likes to give the free information, the free training. There's always the paper option. So like if this just isn't an option, if $100 a month is still just not a part of your budget for whatever you're doing, we get it. So there's always going to be the paper option as well. And next week, there'll be the suspicious activity reports. There's a neat little diagram of a person and a vehicle. And, we'll share that with you guys. So if you want to do something on paper, great, we get it. But this is sort of the way of the future. There's apps involved. I mean, I hate to even say this because I don't want it to, like, this isn't required by any means, but if, like in the security world that I'm in the corporate security world, when somebody's working for you and then you say, hey, I need you to log into your app on your phone so we can do this tour where you walk around the building and you scan the little tag so I know you've been there. Of course, the questions I get are, well, are you going to pay for my cell phone bill? And I don't have enough data on my plan, so you're going to have to compensate me to download the app, or I don't have enough space. I only have a half a gig left and it's not going to fit on my phone, or whatever the excuse is. So in the corporate security world, we have devices. Well, Guardmetrics has devices that you could get for your church. So you're not even asking your volunteers to put the app on their phone. You could buy a device. It's $40 a month. So that's a pretty good price for a cell phone, basically. There is, I think, $125 activation fee for it, but for $40 a month, you would then have a device that's sitting at the church plugged in, and when you guys come in to do your post or your tour or whatever you call it, they wouldn't even have to use their own phones. That's an option, especially for some of the larger churches that may have multiple departments and Mike's got 70 people on his team. It may just get easier for them to have a couple of devices that are where their radios are, instead of having to deal with everybody logging into their app and someone's going to forget their password, or someone's going to, not do the update and it's not going to work and whatever else. So that's an option. There's it's $40 for a phone. It's whatever the flavor of the month is from T-Mobile. T-Mobile's the carrier. And it's whatever their special is. So you might get an iPhone, you might get a Samsung Galaxy, you might get a whatever it is that particular month. But it's meant to be just a device that is used, in this system. So I've been doing enough talking. Thanks for your time. I don't know. No one's asked any more questions on the chat that I can see. If you don't have any more questions, we can wrap it up. That link is in there for that notebook that Michael was talking about. And if you guys are interested in this, if you want to move forward with this, just send me an email. Say, hey, I'm ready. Send me the link, Scott, or, hey, send me the video so I can send it to my pastor. Like, we're not trying to jam this down anybody's throat, but, if you're interested in it, we certainly want to make it available. And as we build this out, it becomes more and more valuable to all of us, the more people that are involved in it.
Hey folks, Michael Mann from Michael Mann Security Services. Thank you so much for watching our content. Hey, if you want to get a hold of us, you've got questions, here's how you can do that. You can give me a call at 615-956-3912. You can always get us at Safe with Mann, and we're going to answer that as quick as possible. Okay. Or
Folks, we have a free YouTube channel. There's a library of videos on physical protection, providing emergency response, security assessments, you name it. We've got a year's worth of video and training on our YouTube channel, and it is absolutely free. And that's at Safe with Man. You can get us at michaelmannsecurityservices.com. That's the website address. Shoot us a message. You can also get us at contact@michaelmannsecurityservices.com, or you can get us at scott@michaelmannsecurityservices.com, and we will email you back as quick as possible. And remember, it is about prevention, not response.